My name is Petri Kainlainen and today we will learn to parse date and time information from a request parameter by using Spring MVC and the datetime format annotation. Let's get started. I have already created a controller method that processes post requests sent to the URL /API/datetime/datetime. The name of this controller method is process_datetime and it takes a Java 8 local datetime object as a method parameter. This method parameter is parsed from a request parameter called datetime. The question is, which date and time format should we use when we set the value of the datetime request parameter? I have also created two unit tests for the process datetime controller method. The first test ensures that the controller method returns the HTTP response status OK. And the second test ensures that the correct local datetime object is passed forward to the service method. At first, I tried to specify the value of the datetime request parameter by using the ISO date and time format, because I assumed that it's supported out of the box. The problem is that it doesn't work. When we run our unit tests, we notice that both of them fail. The reason for this is that a conversion failed exception is thrown. In other words, Spring doesn't recognize the ISO date and time format. The good thing is that we can fix this by using the datetime format annotation, and now we will find out how we can pass the date and time information from a request parameter if we want to use the ISO date format. If we want to use the ISO 8601 date and time format, we have to follow these steps. 1. We have to annotate the controller method parameter with the datetime format annotation. 2. We have to configure the used date and time format by setting the value of the datetime format annotation's ISO attribute to datetimeformat.iso.datetime. Let's run our unit tests and see if that fixed our problem. When we run our unit tests, we notice that both of them passes. That's nice, but sometimes we need to use a custom date and time format. Let's pass the date and time information from a request parameter that uses the Finnish date and time format. If we want to use a custom date and time format, we have to follow these steps. 1. We have to annotate the controller method parameter with the datetime format annotation. 2. We have to configure the used date and time format by setting the value of the datetime format annotations pattern attribute. When we change the value of the request parameter that's used by our unit tests and run our unit tests, we notice that our build is green again. In other words, we are now able to parse date and time information from a request parameter by using either the ISO date and time format or a custom date and time format. Let's summarize what we learned from this video. There are 3 things that we should remember when we use the datetime format annotation. The datetime format annotation supports old date objects, long objects, and Java time. Also, if we use Spring 4 and Java 8, it supports the new date and time API as well. If we want to use the ISO 8601 format, we have to configure the used format by setting the value of the datetime format annotation's ISO attribute. If we want to use a custom format, we have to configure the used format by setting the value of the datetime format annotation's pattern attribute. That's all. If you want to get more Spring tutorials, you should take a look at my website www.petrikainlainen.net. Thank you for watching.